Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit up to $250. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back, all from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing.
Hi everybody, Mike Beer here with DRF's Race of the Day for Sunday. We're going down to Belmont Park, race number 8, New York bred turf sprint for some older horses. A quick reminder here that you can download free formulator past performances for the Race of the Day at DRF.com on the Race of the Day event page. Let's take a look at this field of New York bred turf sprinters. You'll notice here that we have a field of 11 total horses entered with an entry, of course. 4 of these horses are entered for main track only. The number 1, Bronx Bomber, the number 3, Runaway Loot, both in the 8 and the 9, Bears Mafia, Listen to Your Heart. They're all main track only, so we'll go with 7, assuming this race stays on the grass. It's sort of a well-matched field, I suppose. Some of these horses have a recent race in common. It feels like the kind of a race where you want to maybe keep an open mind. A lot of different horses can win here, but there are also a lot of horses in here who've already had their chances, and you want to be a little bit leery of. Let's start with the Timeform US Pace Projector. Listen, it's hard to argue with this pace projector, if only because the number 4 Steam Engine, who has never run on turf before, if he does bring his speed over to the grass, and that's, I guess, could be some kind of a concern, but if he brings his dirt speed over to this surface, he's going to be in front. He's a fast horse. He's never run on turf. He doesn't have a lot of pedigree for turf. I didn't find a lot to like about him switching surfaces in this spot, but man, if he does clear off and takes to the turf at all, there's a real chance he could wire this field. I couldn't talk myself into him. He's just really not bred to be a turf horse, so I didn't want him. But we'll see if he can make the front and keep going in here. If he doesn't handle the turf, I guess that could leave the 5. You can see the number 5 there, second on your pace projector, Call Me Harry. That horse has some speed. He doesn't need the lead, but he has some speed. He'll be up close. And he could be in a really nice position here if Steam Engine doesn't take to the turf and gives this thing up. Call Me Harry could be in the right spot to take advantage of that, maybe get the jump on some of the later runners in the race. We'll just sort of run through this field really quickly. There's not really that many horses that I was too interested in here. The 2 Belmont, he's run a race or 2 that would give him a chance in here. He also has tactical speed. He came off of a little bit of a layoff last time at Aqueduct going this distance on the grass. They put him on the front. He was chased all the way around there by Discretionary Mark, who's also in this field. He was no match for Discretionary Mark in the stretch of that race, got tired, finished 5th. He was off the layoff. I suppose he could do better. His prior turf form didn't do enough for me to want to give him another chance to rebound in this race. We already talked about Steam Engine, a horse who I'm not betting in this race as he switches to turf. Discretionary Mark is the 1A. Listen, he's got races in his past that would give him a real chance in here. We'll see if he's sort of back into that form now. As recently as December, he was racing for $16,000 down in Gulfstream, and he was claimed. I suppose that since Kelly Breen took him that day, he's run 3 times for Kelly Breen. He's been second in 2 of them. I suppose you could say that Kelly Breen's gotten him back into good form in that most recent race that we just talked about where Belmont was on the lead. This horse, it was hard to see what happened early in that race. It looked almost like maybe Javier Castellano was out of one of his irons for a bit there. This horse pulled his way forward, so he was chasing the pace when Castellano got back in control. All in all, he ran well. He got by Belmont to take a short lead in the stretch. He was no match for the pretty good winner there, Sanctuary City, closing from last to run him down. He did hold on for second in the race over Big Package. I thought all in all he ran fine. If you go back earlier in his career, there was a span of turf races earlier on in his career, turf sprints, where he won 4 of 6 starts, including 2 races in this condition already. You know that he has a race that's good enough to be competitive in here, but it's been a long time since he's actually won a race. You're going back almost 2 years now. He showed a sign of life last time. If you like him, I'm not going to argue too hard, but I'm not a big fan. The number 5 is Call Me Harry. We already talked about him too. He's got a little bit of tactical speed. He's a 5-year-old, newly turned 5-year-old, but he's also very lightly raced. Maybe we haven't seen his best race yet. At the end of last year at Aqueduct, they came to turf, a 6-furlong turf race with him. Showed good speed that day, got to the front against a pretty good field. He was really, never looked like he was going to hold on at the end, but he didn't give way through the stretch. The 1-2 finishers, Mo Maverick and Boston Shop, they're both pretty good horses. It looked like they were going to blow right by this horse, but he fought on, got beat less than a length. He never looked like he was going to win, but he ran fine. 85 buyer. He's run a couple of faster races sprinting on turf earlier in his career. This horse is a major player in here. I didn't have him on top. I got him second. I think he's a major player. Shiraz is the 6. Listen, he's got races that would make him really tough as well. He's been around for a long time. He's never been a winning type of horse. It's interesting because they came back off of a layoff with him last year and dropped him into some claiming races just because he hadn't won a race in so long. He went back to back in his first 2 starts last year against claiming horses. That doubled his career win total up to 4. This is a horse who never won prior to that. They bumped him back up into this condition for a couple of starts later in the year. He ran fine, 3rd in one, 4th in the other, behind Maxwell Esquire when he finished 4th last September at Belmont. He ran fine in those races. He's got tactical speed too. Plenty of races that make him tough in there. It's just really hard to trust as a win candidate because he very rarely wins. The 7 is big package. He's your morning line favorite. Lightly raced, newly turned 4-year-old. Ran a couple of really nice races sprinting on the turf as a 2-year-old. Had a little trouble getting the campaign going last year. He didn't return from the layoff till September, but he ran big off the layoff at Saratoga sprinting on the grass. Sat inside off the pace, kicked into gear the final 1/8 of a mile at a big price, ran past that field to win and score a little bit of an upset. Then he came right back for another start on very short rest. About 15 days later, he came back in this condition and ran well again. He missed by a nose with an 88 buyer and just got beat by Maxwell Esquire that day. Maxwell Esquire is a very nice horse and would certainly be a heavy favorite in this race. This horse ran really well, and the only 2 times we saw him on turf last year as a 3-year-old. He's got 1 start now off of the layoff. He was in that discretionary Mark Belmont race off the bench over at Aqueduct. He ran fine in there. They took him back off the pace in there. He was gaining ground in the late stages of that race to get up for 3rd. He couldn't quite get 2nd. Overall, he ran fine in that race. The winner of that race against Sanctuary, so he did come back to win again in his next start. He's a nice horse. Just feels to me like big package is the horse to beat in here. He needs a little bit of pace, I guess. He's not a total plotter, but he'll be off the pace. I read Ortiz retains the mount. To me, he's the horse to beat. A couple of main track onlys outside of him, and then you have Honor Up on the outside. This horse has totally lost his form. He's a talented racehorse. It just feels like he's not in good form right now. Michelle Nevin, now for his 3rd start off the layoff, he has not run well in his first 2. For the 3rd start, she's going to switch over to turf and sprint him. And listen, that could be a bad sign that they're just going to get off the dirt with him now because he's a stakes winner on the main track against New York breds. But it's worth at least noting that if you go back to this horse when he was a 3-year-old, he did win on the turf. I mean, he's more of a dirt horse, but he can handle the grass. He ran a couple of good races on turf earlier in his career. It just feels like they're switching over now because he's totally lost his form. So I thought that made him pretty hard to like in this race, but he's far from impossible if you're looking for a horse at a price. I didn't take him. I took the favorite on top, big package. He's the 7. I went 7, 5, 6, and 10. In your Sunday DRF race of the day, it's the 8th at Belmont Park. Your approximate post time's 4:40 Eastern Time. Good luck.